Maybe you should drop.
Hey, what's good, you boys? It's your boy Gilly, back with the final segment of the Leavers series. Now, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this series, because this series came out of probably the best weekend of my life. So, we're going to close it off with a bang today. This is the best one, no doubt about it. I'm not just hyping it up, it generally is. You know, everything happened on the last night, because by this time, you know, everyone's lost their minds. Everyone just wants to go home. Everyone's just feeling crusty as... So yeah, and also I'd like to say, I'm sorry for not uploading yesterday, you know. I went hard on the weekend. Well, I wouldn't say weekend, I went out on Sunday. Shit happens, and I was feeling hell out of it on Monday. So, you can put two and two together. That's why I didn't upload. But nevertheless, we're back, ready for the upload. Let's get to 100 subs, boys. Drop a sub if you're not subbed. More bangers to come. Don't think this is the end of the channel, because this series is over. Many more videos to come, and also for the WA boys, we're ready because the club's opening up on Friday. So let me know what you guys are going to do on the weekend. I know I'm hitting the clubs for the first time. You know, I just turned 18, so it is what it is. Alright, enough of the rambling, let's get into the video. This one might be a little bit longer because so much shit happens, but let's get into it. So, like every other day, woke up feeling just as crusty as the last, if not even worse. And today, I'm 90% sure I didn't even eat anything for breakfast, which is definitely not the way you want to go about it, because you need that energy for the raves. So, I think I just sat out the back for the rest of the day, and the plan was for two of my mates to do acid today. I'm not a psychedelic bloke. I've done psychs once, as you know, with the DMT story. That's the first and last time I'm doing them for a while, but you know, they're into their psychs, so two of them dropped acid in the morning. You know, acid lasts for about 12 hours, so you're in it for a while, and you know, they dropped it. So we're just kicking back, observing the view, and I've got videos to back this up. That's coming in a little bit. But you know, they start coming up on the acid, and they just look more and more fucked. Now, one of them was Albert, and the other one was Rook. Now, Rook and Albert, they had two pretty different trips, I'd say, just being an outsider looking in. Albert kind of just laid in the room, staring up at the roof for most of his trip, and then Albert was just running around the backyard and just doing some weird shit. So not only did we have Barry smashing back piss by this time, because it was probably about 10 o'clock, and we had Wiggers on acid. Now, not only was Rook going to take acid, he was going to candy flip. If you don't know what a candy flip is, it's essentially where you do MDMA and you mix it with acid, which is something I would probably never do. I've heard it's absolutely phenomenal, but if you're not an experienced psychonaut, at this point, they're in their own separate worlds. There was a few times, I'll cut to videos every now and then, where Rook, he was like getting anxiety from certain like pictures on the wall. He was like making us pull them down and like move the furniture around. It was an absolute wig out. And meanwhile, Albert was just in our room, just staring at the roof, just not saying much. You know, the day's going on, they're just geeking out on acid. Rook, we have to keep an eye on him because he's kind of just walking around the place. At one point, he was shaking hands with one of the trees in the backyard.
Wait, hugging hands?
Yeah, I think at this point, and it was just a funny mix to see, because you had two people on acid, and then there was just Barry trying to converse with them, and he was just drunk as fuck already. So the day's going on, they're tripping out. You know, it's probably been about 5 hours since they dropped the acid, and they're still wigging out now. They had cones, and this is what sent Albert to just not want to go to the rave this night, so he didn't actually go to the rave at all. He just went to bed early, because when he had the cone, it like, I've heard when you smoke weed on acid, it like amplifies the effects of everything, which I could imagine. And as soon as he smoked the cone, it got really intense, and he just like sat around and didn't want to do anything, which is fair enough. But Rook, on the other hand, is an absolute maniac, and he trooped it on to the raves. Now, if you don't know what these red frog people are, they're essentially like volunteers, and they come around to your house, they can clean your dishes, and they can cook you pancakes. And what happened was in the morning, one of the chicks staying at the house, I don't know why, but she called the Red Frogs. And that whole day they were booked out, and they said they couldn't come till ages later. So we just forgot about them completely. And then I'd say about 30 minutes before the rave was about to start, these Red Frogs just rock up out of nowhere. We've got bongs everywhere, just alcohol everywhere. I don't think any MD was out, but the place was an absolute state. And these volunteer people just rock up and they're all excited and we're just dead. We've got Rook on acid as well, and we've got Albert in a room just tripping absolute sack. So it's an absolute zoo in this house, and these people just rock up and they're trying to have normal conversations with us. And there was a few people that were hell blazed hiding in tents as well. And then there was just a few of us just sat out trying to talk to these Red Frogs. And by this point of the trip, I could barely speak English, let alone talk to like normal volunteers. And they probably just thought, what the hell have we walked into? Next minute they walk out with fucking pancakes. And keep in mind, I've been doing MD this whole holiday, so the last thing I want before I want to go out and rave is pancakes. So they just put them on the table, and I felt so bad because not a single person had one, or maybe Barry had one, I can't remember. But I know they barely got touched, and we just had to put Glad wrap over them and then have them the next day. And then the Red Frogs, they hung around for a while. And just before we were leaving, Barry, the alcohol was starting to get to this bloke's head. He was telling us how he wanted to kill someone at the rave and he was going to do something bad. You could just tell he was hella smashed and we weren't really taking it seriously. And we were just telling him, nah, just chill out, bro. He wasn't getting really angry. He was just saying it like in a weird way. I can't really explain it. But everyone that was there knows exactly what I'm talking about. He was just going on about killing someone and we were just like, okay, buddy, whatever. It's about that time of the night to leave for the rave. So we gather everyone up. We leave the Red Frogs at the house with... Albert was still just chilling in one of the rooms, and then I left with SETI, a few others, and I know Walkman came as well. And also before we left this night, Walkman smoked MD, so he put half a cap in a cone with bud underneath it and he smoked it. Now I've never smoked MD before and I probably never will, but you should have seen the state of this bloke on the bus. So by this night, everyone on the bus was dead. Like, there was no energy on the bus, let alone people. It was empty as. But this bloke was punching the roof still. He was going off. He peaked hell quickly because he smoked it. I don't know how it works, how it affects you. But he started capping really early on. And it looked like he was on crack. So, I don't recommend smoking MD. I actually definitely don't recommend smoking because fuck knows what you're like lighting up and inhaling in your lungs. But we left Rook back at the house because he was still not sure if he wanted to come to the rave and candy flip. So we just left him back at the house with Barry and the rest. And, we headed on one of I think it was probably the fourth bus off our station. And when we were on this bus, we were probably second from the front and about a seat in front of us on the other side of the aisle, like on the bus. We noticed this bloke absolutely passed out, but he looked pale. You saw a lot of these sort of people throughout your night, so it wasn't really anything out of the ordinary. However, towards the end of the bus trip, I'd say about 10 minutes off the end, all of a sudden this bloke just starts spewing on the bus and he's at the very front. And this is hands down the most spew I've ever seen, and I've seen a handful of people spew in my time. This bloke was just yakking and yakking and yakking. He probably yacked for about 15 minutes straight, and it looked like he was about to die. He still had his eyes shut when he was yakking. He was half passed out, and his girlfriend was next to him or something. Not only did this bloke spew all over the floor, he had it all over him as well, all down his shirt, all over his pants, all over his legs and shit. And it covered up the whole front of the bus all the way down to where the driver was sitting. And when we got there, they already had the green team on standby. So when we rocked up, they were there with buckets and they had to flush all the spew out of the bus. And I felt so bad for that bus driver because if you got to think about it, he's going to drive in that bus for the rest of the night and it would stink like shit. My heart goes out to that fella. He definitely doesn't get paid enough for his job. But nonetheless, we had to jump over this spew water and hop into the rave. Now, we dropped our caps a little bit later tonight. We dropped them, I'm pretty sure, as we were walking in the line. Not really recommended because there's security and cops everywhere, but, you know, I was too busy focused on looking at this bloke spewing everywhere. So, you know, we drop our caps a little bit later, and we rock up. Now, it was a bit strange. When we walked in, we noticed all of our boys in there, like, just standing there, like, the massive group, not the people staying at our house, just, like, other people we knew. So we were talking to them for a bit, and then all of a sudden, Rook and Barry rock up. Now, Rook dropped his cap, and he's still on acid, remember. This is probably about 7 to 10 hours later, I can't remember exactly, but he rocks up to our little crowd of people. Now, I've seen people, like, capping really hard, you know, you probably all have, you know, they just look like zombies, but this bloke, Rook, looked like he was from another planet. I can't imagine what he was seeing, but I remember him just walking up to me, and then, like, feeling my face, and just staring at me, and just, like, screaming shit. And I started to come up at this point, because this was a little bit later, and it was scaring the fuck out of me. I was like, what the fuck is this cunt on? And then I remembered he candy flipped. And I remember the whole night, I would just see him in the crowd, like, just doing weird shit. It was so funny. You know, shout out to Rook. He probably went the absolute hardest that night, but that's not the highlight of the night. I forgot at this point, Barry was already pissed off at nothing. So he was already in a kind of shitty mood. So we were raving for a little bit, me and Seti, and it was probably about halfway through the night, and we walked out of the tent to get a drink of water, because there's like this little drink fountain outside the rave tent we were always in. You know, we were sitting by this drink fountain, kicking back, and I seen Rook and Barry walk out, and Rook's trying to calm Barry down, and he's like screaming, nah, fuck that guy, fuck him. And then we see another crowd of boys walking behind him, and I know these boys as well, you know, they love a good fight, I'll just say that. And poor Barry, who was smashed as, was just screaming back at them. Now, it was probably a 2 against 8. You know, the other one looked like he'd already been in a smash. His face was all puffed up. And, you know, as this crowd was following them, I, like, went up to them and I was like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, and one of them's like, yeah, your boy's about to get in a smash. And I'm like, no way. Next minute, the bloke from the other group snaps, runs up behind Barry and just coon swings him in the back of the head. And then Barry spins around and starts smacking back into him. And then all of a sudden, a massive crowd forms in the middle of this, like, field. And I just remember looking across the way and just seeing Rook just look absolutely petrified. I could just tell this bloke was going into a bad trip, because this guy was just pin-eyed. Like, his eyes were wide open, and it looked like he was going into shock as Barry was just smashing on with this other bloke. And then I reckon it went for about 20 seconds, and then about 4 cops just dived on the fight. Probably the craziest point of the whole trip. You know, old mate Barry got in the fattest smash, and Rook was candy flipping, and he was just seeing his mate just get absolutely pummeled. So I can't imagine what he was thinking, like I said before. And, you know, after this, they got escorted away, like, legit dragged away. I'm pretty sure Barry was legit getting dragged by the 2 cops, because he was still trying to resist arrest. And I'm on caps as well, so I'm just in shock. I wasn't sure how to react, to be honest, because I knew both of them. I'm closer with Barry, but, you know, it was just a strange sight to see, because he's not usually like an aggro person. Shit happens, and, you know, the crowd broke up. That was pretty much it for that night. I think we stayed a little bit longer, but, you know, everyone pretty much cleared off after that, and we headed home on the bus. Now, at this point, me and Seti, you know, it's the last night. We had the best time of our lives. We were just kind of reminiscing on what the fuck just happened that week, because in the moment, you can barely remember what happened. And I guarantee if I drunk more, I probably wouldn't have remembered any of it, because a lot of my mates don't really remember the whole trip, let alone even go to all the raves, because, so Albert, you know, he missed 2 of the raves, so that's a rip for him, but I don't think it was really his cup of tea. Nonetheless, me and Seti, we're walking back. It's the final leg. We're coming back from the last rave. We've made it. The whole weekend was behind us. We conquered every single night. Now we head out the back, and it's the usual sight. You know, everyone's just sitting there, and we see Barry, and his eye is black. This bloke got socked in the eye. It looked pretty hard. You know, he was fine. He wasn't really angry about it. He calmed down. He wasn't really drunk anymore, because, you know, certain situations kind of sober you up a little bit. So you could tell he's just chilling. You know, it was the last day, so he didn't have to worry about going out with a black eye. So that was pretty much the end of that. Everyone went to bed, and me, Seti, and Belle, and a few others kicked on till the morning. Like, we literally sat up until the morning. It was probably about 7 o'clock. We went to bed the next day. And before we went to bed, Barry actually came back out because, you know, he wakes up really early. And this bloke's eye was sticking out his head. Like, picture E.T.'s eyes, how they're kind of like out to the side of his head. That's what he looked like. It was the funniest sight you could have ever seen. But, you know, I felt bad for him because it probably hurt. And he got picked up early that morning. That was the end of Barry for the trip. Shout out to Barry. He went way harder than anyone else on the drinks. And yeah, that pretty much concludes the whole of that series, guys. Like I said, if this is the first segment of this series you've watched, make sure to go back and watch all of them. You know, each one's a laugh. Each one has its own little incident in it. To this year's Levers, we're probably going to go back if it's even on, because I've heard rumors that it's not even going to be on this year. But I'm definitely going to try to go back. And this year, I'm actually going to buy a GoPro for it and like strap it to my chest so you guys can get like a full perspective on what goes on. And I'm sure that will be a gas series. And I'm going down with a different lot of boys this time. It's going to be the younger lot. And I'll probably have a few from last year's lot come down as well. But it's going to be with a new group of people, a new group of memories. And I'm looking forward to it if it even happens. But, you know, the year after, I'm definitely not going because that's my sister's year. And yeah, I'm just not going down that year. So hopefully Levers happens this year. Fingers crossed, because, you know, that will be, once again, some of the best content you'll probably see on this channel. And I'll just add a new element to the stories. But, you know, hopefully you guys did enjoy this series. This is probably the longest one out of all of them. So make sure you drop in a like. And I'll probably be back with a video tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that's pretty much it. See you guys in the next one. DJ, run that tune.
Anywhere goes, they know that's Joe or Road. I've had big men on ropes. Jump at the ride with whaps or swing them shanks. It's gonna be the same result. Either way, trying to leave man dead. Like your friend, jump at the ride with skanks. Last time I did, I got a no lads, go check. Niggas can't talk on the 7. Most of the drills got done by me or my brethrens. Them man talk on the net, then legging. I even back my weapon.